Hello and welcome to another Sinister Sunday. Today we're going to go over the dark history of Thanksgiving, the real history. Although the Potawatomi and the others across the United States celebrate Thanksgiving, the factual history behind the holiday is something to be less than thankful for. While communing with loved ones and showing appreciation for the bounties and gifts provided is one positive aspect of the national holiday, teaching a false narrative of its beginning perpetuates colonialism and ignores more than 400 years of hypocrisy committed against Native Americans and the First Nations people. It just disregards the centuries of brutality against Native Americans and chose to take this one tiny 1621 snapshot, and in a world of social media, it puts all the pretty filters on it so that it doesn't look the way it truly did. Thanksgiving facts and Thanksgiving myths have blended together for years like so much gravy and mashed potatoes, and separating them is just as complicated. The formation of Thanksgiving as an official United States holiday did not begin until November 1863 during the Civil War. President Abraham Lincoln officially established the holiday as a way to improve relations between northern and southern states, as well as the U.S. and tribal nations. Just a year prior, a mass execution took place of Dakota tribal members. Corrupt federal agents kept the Dakota Sioux from receiving food and provisions. Finally, at the brink of death from starvation, members of the tribe fought back, resulting in the Dakota War of 1862. In the end, President Lincoln ordered 38 Dakota men to die from hanging, and he felt that Thanksgiving offered an opportunity to bridge the hard feelings amongst the natives and the federal government. The first Thanksgiving is often portrayed as a friendly harvest celebration where pilgrims and generic, nameless Indians came together to eat and give thanks. This story is a myth that was sparked in the mid-1800s when the English accounts of the 1621 harvest event resurfaced and fueled the Americans' imagination. The first Thanksgiving as a national story is incomplete and inaccurate. The whole history is more complex and includes the Wampanoag voice and perspective that is largely absent from this narrative. The Wampanoag and neighboring native nations were interacting with European explorers, traders, and enslavers for nearly 100 years before English settlers arrived at the Wampanoag village in 1620. After careful observations, negotiations, and exchanges, the Wampanoag decided to assist the English settlers. However, their interactions had much more to do with political alliances and diplomacy rather than a budding friendship. Cooperation and peace were short-lived. Harvest ceremonies and festivals have been an integral part of the Wampanoag lifeways for thousands of years. They practiced daily and seasonal traditions of giving thanks long before the encounter with the English settlers and the formation of Thanksgiving as a national holiday. Giving thanks is a long-standing central tradition among indigenous people that is still practiced today. Native traditions are distinct, complex, and specific to each individual nation. In truth, massacres, disease, and American Indian tribal politics are what shaped the Pilgrim-Indian alliance at the root of the holiday. In Thanksgiving pageants held at schools across the United States, children don headdresses colored with craft store feathers and share tables with classmates wearing black construction paper hats. It's a tradition that pulls on a history passed down through the generations of what happened in Plymouth. Local Native Americans welcomed the courageous pioneering pilgrims to celebrate a feast. But much of this story is myth, riddled with historical inaccuracies. Beyond that, The telling and retelling of these falsehoods is deeply harmful to the Wampanoag Indians, whose lives and society were forever damaged after the English arrived in Plymouth. When the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth in 1620, the chief offered the new arrivals an entente, primarily as a way to protect their tribe against their rivals. For 50 years, the alliance was tested by colonial land expansions, the spread of disease, and the exploitation of resources on the Wampanoag land. Then tensions ignited into war. Known as King Philip's War, the conflict devastated the Wampanoags and forever shifted the balance of power in favor of the European arrivals. The Wampanoags today remember the Pilgrims' entry to their homeland as a day of deep mourning rather than a moment of giving thanks. Americans have been celebrating Thanksgiving for nearly 4 centuries, commemorating that solemn dinner in November 1621. We all know that story well, but did you know this one? The first Thanksgiving was not a Thanksgiving in Pilgrim's terms, but a rejoicing. An actual giving of thanks required fasting and quiet contemplation. A rejoicing features feasting, drinking, military drills, target practice, and contests of strength and speed. It's a party, not prayer, and was full of people shooting at things. While their feast may have included wild turkey, the local diet also included fish, eels, shellfish, and boiled cornmeal mixed with vegetables and meats. There was no potatoes and no pies because there was no butter, wheat, flour, or sugar. There was no century-long continuity that emerged from that 1621 meetup. Notable examples took place in 1637 and 1676, following bloody victories over native people. To mark the second occasion, the Plymouth men mounted the head of that chief's son above the town on a pike, where it remained for 2 decades. While his dismembered and unburied body decomposed, the less brutal holiday that we celebrate today took shape 2 centuries later as an effort to entrench an imagined American community. In a publication, Reverend Alexandra Young linked 3 things: the 1621 rejoicing, autumn harvest festivals, and Thanksgiving in a 4-line throwaway gesture and a 1-line footnote that read, "This was the first Thanksgiving, the great festival of New England. Of such half-thoughts is history made." Thank you so much for joining us on another Sinister Sunday. I'd like to take the time to wish you and your family a happy rejoicing. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, and if you like this kind of content, please check out our Sinister Sunday playlist for more, and we'll see you next week.